Hi, welcome to my campaign launch. Look, you've got to be able to cop a bit of criticism when you're a political candidate, and the other day I think I copped the ultimate criticism. I was doing a live, on-the-spot interview for ABC Radio to their breakfast program, and a bird pooed on me. So I guess that's what they mean by you have to wear criticism, and I certainly did that morning. Before I get into my plans, I just want to mention a few details, a bit of housekeeping if you will. And one thing that has come to my attention is that my opponent has softened the talk about Ripley Valley. That's a development that's looking at adding another 125,000 people to Ipswich. The whole problem with this is, and I can prove this, is that it will push rates up for all Ipswich residents. It is not a good plan. Because as things stand, state government requires councils to pay upfront infrastructure costs for new development. So what I'm suggesting is that we lay off the development and start looking after the people of Ipswich. Because what I'm about to tell you here is an example of how Ipswich is lagging behind. It's actually lost facilities proportionate to its population. And that brings me to another point. My opponent has been talking at great length about how we need to build communities. Yesterday I read he was talking about making Ipswich City the centre, and places like Springfield regions, Springfield, Rosewood, Goodna regions, and that we need to build communities and people need to get together and help each other. Well, that's all very good. But what I'm here to talk about is what council can do for communities. I mean, council needs to drive this. If that's what you want, council needs to facilitate. So I've got two areas I'm going to primarily cover today, and they will tie into a third area, which is in part of my 6-point plan. But my main concern is the lack of facilities, sporting and cultural facilities in Ipswich. We're here at the site of the Jim Gardner Pool, which was demolished in 2000. It's named after a legendary swimming coach who had coached 2,500 children, taught them how to swim. My plan is to restore or rebuild the Jim Gardner Pool. In fact, Ipswich only has 3 public pools. This is despite a booming population of 175,000. It is just another example of how we have gone backwards. There are in fact less public pools than there were 3 years ago. I'll correct myself there. There are less public pools than there were 13 years ago. It's just not good enough. I mean, people reasonably expect their councils to provide sporting facilities and other facilities, and this council simply has dropped the ball. The other pool I'd like to build is at Redbank Plains. Now that's historical. Going back to 1994, there was a pool promise for Redbank Plains Reserve, and there was a huge concert. Those who were school children at the time will remember singing at this huge concert, Celebration of a Nation they called it. And that was primarily to raise funds for the Olympic pool that was going to be built in Redbank Plains, which also I should point out is a booming area, subject of intense, rapid growth. When the two shires of Moreton and Ipswich amalgamated, the Redbank Plains Reserve being in the Moreton Shire, the subject was dropped and it never happened. Well, I'm here to promise to those people and to the new generation and those newcomers that you will get your pool. It's the very least you can expect of your council. The other area that is of concern to me is lack of library facilities. The simple fact of the matter is that Brisbane has 1 library per 30,000 residents. The Gold Coast has 1 library per 42,000 residents. Ipswich has 1 library per 58,000 residents. I'm using as a basic benchmark 1 library for 35,000, which I think is reasonable. It's halfway between Brisbane and the Gold Coast in terms of service. That means we're 2 libraries short. We've only got 3 libraries, and those 3 libraries were built by previous council administrations. One of them, in fact, by Moreton. So, in effect, the original Ipswich only had 2 libraries that it built. So I'm proposing a library for Rosewood. This would service a huge area from Grantchester to Marburg to Amberley to Walloon and of course Rosewood. And the second library I'm proposing is for Springfield, Camira. I say that because that will depend on land availability, and that will service Gales, all of Greater Springfield and Camira residents. And this is a facility that's sadly lacking. It's an essential community hub. If you want strong communities, you have to provide for that. You can't just let it happen on its own. You have to help it. And this is my proposal. Tying into that, all these proposals that I put up will include jobs for local builders, local tradespeople and local workers. There'll be jobs involved in building these facilities, there'll be jobs involved in running them, and there will be jobs involved in maintenance. On which note, the current existing 3 libraries in Ipswich I would also like to be updated and modernised. Libraries are not an old-fashioned thing, they're actually a modern facility, and the way they are run is modern. They have modern equipment, they have modern access to databases, to the world of knowledge. Ipswich was actually a world leader in knowledge. It was the first public library system to have internet access. And under that we actually had world headlines. We were paving the way. Sadly, that has slipped. We've dropped the ball and we are in fact falling behind. Not just in terms of the provision of electronic services, but just in terms of library services per se. Do I have any questions?
I guess I have to ask about why there's no other media here.
You would have to ask the other media that. They were all sent a brief saying this was on, twice in fact. All other newspapers and electronic media. I'm a bit surprised. Last time I ran, I had a good full contingent of local press turned up for my media launch, and yes, you'd have to ask them that. However, it will be noted that Ipswich News has turned up.